Every present moment is in truth a past moment, since what we think happens right now actually occurs nanoseconds before. Even the experience of seeing this in front of your eyes is bounded by how fast the light can bounce off the screen and scatter back to your eyes, which, though exceedingly fast, is lagged once the photons reach your optic nerve and then become transformed as chemical electrical signals passing through a gauntlet of neurons and synaptic clefts to reach the visual cortex, only to be recognized as an idea that was mistakenly believed to be instantaneous. Nothing arrives on time. Rather, everything arrives in time, even if we have been neurologically tricked into believing otherwise. That the world is not as it appears is an ancient realization. Indian philosophy has captured this understanding in one simple, but nevertheless beguiling word, Maya. There are several definitions of this Sanskrit term which arguably first arose in the Vedic period of India, ranging from illusion to magic. But perhaps the word's more literal etymology contains the most revealing explanation: not that. Maya, in this sense, means that which betrays its real origin and thus tricks us at each and apparently every turn into believing something about an event's causation that is not true. We see a sunset at a favorite beach and our experiences that it's happening right then. But we have discovered from astronomy that it actually takes 8 minutes or so for the light from the sun to reach us. The same holds true with light from distant stars, which travels thousands of light years to hit Earth. We are not seeing the stars as they are, but as they were hundreds and thousands of years ago. The world we behold is not so much in front of us in a persistent now, as it is behind us in an escaping past. Thus we are continually, even if unconsciously, remembering our lives from experiences that blind us from their real origination. It is as if the world is forever in a tilt, but of which we remain unaware. I remember when I was a young teenager playing an old pinball game in the fun zone in Balboa, which only cost a nickel, but which continually gave replays. I thought I was both exceptionally skilled and lucky to play for over 2 hours in just one nickel. It was only later that I realized how mistaken I had been. The pinball machine was tilted in such a way that it provided constant replays to whomever was fortunate enough to play. Our brains are tilted in seeing the world at large in a certain way, but in so doing, it doesn't immediately inform us of this requisite fact. Even when I'm supposedly making a conscious decision of whether to go right or left in my car, unconscious processes for which I remain dutifully unaware are determining my eventual turning of the wheel. Yes, I may believe that I am, and the pun here is intended, in the driver's seat, but a closer inspection of how we make choices at the neuronal level illustrates the opposite. The neuroscientist John Dylan Haynes conducted a study at the Max Planck Institute for Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences in Leipzig, Germany, which startlingly suggests that some decisions are unknowingly made on our behalf up to 10 seconds in advance. In this context, it's akin to the Autopia ride at Disneyland, which gives children the illusion that they are steering the wheel and actually driving their respective cars, neglecting that they are on a track guided by a metal bar, which automatically moves along all vehicles on a preset design. Deception is part and parcel of nature and is an intrinsic and necessary feature of human existence. Without it, we wouldn't be able to survive, since survival of the fittest is predicated on one's ability to be stealth when necessary, or to be able to invoke varying camouflages in times of need. As one evolutionary thinker put it, our brains were not designed to understand the universe as it is, but rather to eat it, and anything that can augment our eating habits or survival skills will be naturally selected, including our ability to deceive others. What is not so obvious, however, is that nature has also jerry-rigged that the greatest deception of all will be within ourselves. We cannot even look ourselves in the mirror without being subject to a fundamental illusion where that which is left is exchanged right. Our 5 senses don't reveal the universe at large so much as provide us with a severely edited version of what our bodies necessitate to live long enough in order to pass our genetic code. For example, my hearing, smelling, and seeing is only within a certain frequency range, and if something lies beyond that prescribed border, then it remains unknown and non-existent to me. Thus, the world I live in is an exclusive smattering of all that is possible, which is perhaps why John Lilly's famous witticism is more literally true than we might at first suspect. In the province of the mind, what is believed to be true is true, or becomes true within certain limits to be learned by experience and experiment. these limits are further beliefs to be transcended. In the province of the mind, there are no limits. The real question that arises, however, is not whether the mind has no limits in some ontological sense, as Lilly questionably posits, but rather, and more tellingly, why there are limits in the first place. Aldous Huxley, of course, famously argued that the mind was a filtering mechanism, and that human consciousness simply couldn't function if it were allowed to receive all incoming data streams. If such a situation was to occur, perhaps our only viable response would be one of being catatonic. The phantom limb sensation is a good illustration of just how mistaken we can be about what occurs within our nervous system. The majority of amputees report that they can still feel pain in the amputated hand, arm, or leg, even when they know that such extensions have long been removed. The brain is a modeling system, and even if an arm has been amputated, the image of that arm and its attendant connections to pleasure or pain still resides within a Rolodex of remembered sensations. We can even see things that are not there. Perceptual filling in is how our spectra of vision compensates for missing information due to our physiological blind spots. Thus, a wobbly image can be arrested and stabilized on our retina, which can lead to filling up of the surrounding background by images that are literally not there. Ronald Siegel, a distinguished researcher on the effects of psychotropic drugs and altered states of consciousness at UCLA, described in a remarkable study how a series of participants who were given a hallucinogenic dose of marijuana and other drugs all ended up reporting seeing one recurring and disturbing image of multiple eyeballs staring back at them. At first, Professor Siegel couldn't explain why each of his psychonauts had the same experience, but on closer inspection he realized that in their initial training session, each of the drug takers had watched a slideshow which accidentally contained a psychedelic portrait of eyes. As Professor Siegel recalls, the demon was nothing more than the surprise of a disturbing image spontaneously retrieved from memory. Rather than feeling disappointed that a real demon did not exist, I was surprised and humbled to discover that internal images can be powerful enough to be mistaken for external ones. Disturbing images have a way of burrowing their way into our memories, even after a single exposure. Freud had long believed that one of his great, if not greatest, discoveries in psychology was how transference amongst some of his patients operated. Within about 6 months or less, they would project, albeit unconsciously, all sorts of fantastical ideas about their doctor, but without a hint of recognition that it was their own doing. In other words, they took to be objective that which was in truth wholly subjective. This conflation of one's internal brain state for an objective reality is an elemental part of what it means to be human. While most of the time such a correlation can be of a great advantage, particularly when such an overlay are accurate and predictive, at other times it leads to massively delusional states of awareness. A recurring pattern of such delusions are our own dreams, which we habitually take to be deeply real and rich with episodic narratives, except when we wake up and soon realize their wholly imaginative nature. But because consciousness is a virtual simulator, there are times that our dreaming brain can overlap with our waking state and radically confuse us about what is internal and what is external. In certain brain states, it's nearly impossible to even recognize our own projections as projections. Near-death experiences are a good case in point here. The luminous, out-of-body experiences with their accompanying visions can be so intense that it's nearly impossible to question the verticality of any religious vision that may arise within one's purview. Yet apparitions of Jesus only appear to Christians, and Buddha only to Buddhists, and Guru Nanak only to Sikhs, and Krishna only to Hindus, which should give anyone pause about the objectivity of all such manifestations. Moreover, the one undeniable factoid about NDEs is that the person didn't die, but rather lived long enough to retell his or her tale. From an evolutionary perspective, this seems to indicate that NDEs are not about a purported afterlife, but rather about the brain's amazing ability to create a reason or purpose to continue living, drawing as it does from the person's own unique biographical circumstances. Simply put, NDEs are projections of a person's ultimate concern, and those concerns, for better or worse, invariably motivate one to live another day. But such a mechanism isn't very effective if one doubts its numinous origins while undergoing the transformative encounter. In other words, the brain tricks us into believing its own machinations as something that is not sui generis. All this trickery does serve one underlying purpose, however, keeping our organism intact long enough to recapitulate itself. The very colors we perceive are not a product of some Kantian insight into the electromagnetic spectrum itself, but rather the very opposite of what our common sense intuits.